Cath, welcome to my channel made by Cath Craft, or welcome back if you're a regular viewer, and thank you very much for joining me today for my latest episode of my midweek sewing chat. So in this video I'm going to be sharing with you what I've been up to on the sewing front over the last week. I've got one completed sewing project to share that I'm really pleased with, so I'm looking forward to sharing all the details on that one. And then I've got two other sewing projects that I've been working on that are currently in progress, so I'll update you on what I've been doing over the last week on them and how I'm getting on with them. But before I start sharing all of those projects, I'll start the video as usual with what I'm wearing today. And today it's a really beautiful sunny day here in the south of England, which is really nice. I think the temperature's set to get to 24 degrees later, which is pretty hot for May here, so I'm definitely going to enjoy it while it lasts. And I've got on a summery dress today to celebrate this nice sunny weather. And I made this using a really nice dress pattern, which is this pattern here. It is the Lotta dress pattern by Tilly and the Buttons. And it's a really versatile dress pattern, and it's one of Tilly's patterns for beginners, so it's quite a simple sew too. And the thing that makes this pattern really versatile and quite cool, I think, is that you can make it in either woven or stretch fabrics. So there's built in a couple of different options depending on which type of fabric you choose. But I'll show you the line drawings. So it's a dress with this sort of blousey style bodice, and you can either make it as a sort of short sleeve dress with grown on sleeves, or you can add on a long sleeve to bring it down to a sort of bracelet sleeve length. And it's gathered in at the waist with an elastic channel, and then it turns into a flared skirt, and you can either make that skirt as a midi length or just above the knee length. And you can add on these patch pockets too. But it's quite a simple silhouette to it with quite a pretty sort of blousey bodice, and I've seen versions that look really cool in jersey and in woven fabrics. And in terms of sizing, it's available in a UK 6 to a 24, and the largest size is for a bust of 48 inches. And the version I'm wearing today, as you can see, is a short sleeve version, and it's really works really well, I think, in a drapey fabric, the Lotta dress. And I've made mine in this really pretty viscose fabric that I got from Rainbow Fabrics. I don't think it'll be available anymore. I got it quite a long time ago, but I'll link Rainbow Fabrics down below because they've often got pretty new viscose fabrics coming in. They're often dead stock from retailers, so they often have a nice range, especially at summertime. And I think I bought this last summer, so quite a nice summery print. It's got these sort of flowers, it's got a navy base, but then all these sort of powdery coloured flowers in sort of powdery blues and pinks and lilacs. So I think it's a really pretty ditzy floral print. And yeah, I think it works really well with the sort of blousey bodice and this drapey fabric. I'll stand up slightly so you can see. So as you can see, the fabric's really lightweight and perfect for this warmer weather. And I made the size 2 of this dress. I think that pretty much fits my measurements for Tilly patterns. The size 2 is designed for a bust of 32 inches, a waist of 26 inches and hips of 35 inches. And I'm 32, 26, 36, so an inch larger on the hips, but because it's sort of gathered skirt and it's got plenty of room in it, I didn't bother grading out the hips for this dress. It's a really nice sew. I actually added in side seam pockets. I just stole a pattern piece from another pattern to add those in because I find them quite practical, and I wasn't sure about having the patch pockets on the drapey fabric. I thought they might drag too much. And then the only other adjustment I made on this version is, instead of adding a facing around the neck, which is how the pattern gets you to sew the neckline for the woven version, I think there's a jersey neckband for the stretch version, but instead of using a facing piece, I actually made some bias binding in this fabric, and I used bias binding to finish the neck instead. Just my personal preference, I prefer the finish of bias binding, and I like how that kind of sits better, I find, as well. So yeah, it's a really nice and relaxed, comfy one to wear. It's nice and loose around the bodice, which is perfect for a warmer day. Oh, and one thing I thought I'd mention based on my experience of sewing the Lotta dress is that if you sew this dress in a woven fabric, I would recommend that once you've sewn the dress up, that you leave it to hang for a couple of days before you finish the hem off. Just because the skirt is a flared skirt, and so the way you cut the pattern pieces means you cut the skirt partly on the bias or the side seams. And so the side seams do tend to drop a little bit after it's been sewn. So if you leave it for a couple of days to hang, like I did with this one, you could then have a look at it and chop a little bit of length off around the points where it's dropped, and just make sure it's nice and straight and even all the way around before you hem it. So I did that on this version, so I've got a nice even hem on this one. But I learnt that based on my experience with my first Lotta dress, where I didn't leave it to hang for a couple of days, and the hem did end up a little bit wonky and I had to adjust it at a later date, which was a bit of a pain. So I thought I'd mention that. It's worth bearing in mind, particularly if you're sewing with quite a drapey fabric that has a little bit of movement, like a viscose, like this version, where it is probably more likely to drop. So that's what I'm wearing today, and this morning on the school run I popped a denim jacket over the top of this dress because there was a little bit of a chill to the air still. But I'm hoping later, if it does get to 24 degrees like the forecast says it should, that I'll be able to wear it out just as it is, and maybe even with a pair of sandals on too, which would feel really nice and summery. So fingers crossed it does turn out to be a really lovely hot day today. We shall see. But anyway, I'll move on now to sharing with you what I've been up to on the sewing front over the last week. And the first thing I wanted to share with you was my completed sewing project, and I finished sewing my tote bag. So if you've seen my last couple of midweek chat videos, you'll know that I was inspired to give bag making a go. I've made a couple of other non-dressmaking projects before on the sewing front, but I've never tried bag making, but it's something that I really like the idea of giving a go, and I thought it'd be really nice to be able to make my own bags, so just the size and shape I want. So yeah, I thought it'd be a lot of fun. So I had to look around and I came across a company called Noodlehead, which had lots of great reviews, and it's a company that specifically makes patterns for bags, and they had some really nice patterns on their website, so I thought I'd give them a try. And the pattern I went for is their Pepin Tote, which is described as a simple tote, perfect for beginners and experienced alike, so I thought it would be a good bag to start with, and I thought it'd be one that'd be quite practical that I get a lot of use out of too. So this is the Pepin Tote, so it's quite a nice big roomy tote bag. It's got this patch pocket you can add on the front, and there's also interior pockets. It's got these quite nice long straps, and I just thought it'd be quite a nice useful bag that I would get quite a lot of wear out of. Maybe on a beach holiday I could use it on the beach to bring my stuff down, but also just generally, you know, around town to pop all my bits and bobs in. I thought it'd be a really useful one. And I thought it'd be nice to start with a beginner pattern that had a few extra add-ons I could try and just see how I got on. So I'll show you my finished tote bag, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. I really love it actually, and it was a lot of fun to make. Here is my finished tote bag. And yeah, I made it in this really pretty fabric. This is a cotton canvas linen blend. I think it's about 50-50 cotton canvas and linen, but I might be wrong. I'll link the fabric down below. I got it from Lamazi Fabrics, and it's nice actually because it's quite a nice sturdy fabric, but it's not really thick, so it was easy to get through my machine. It wasn't a struggle when I got to the thicker points of the bag. It's got this really beautiful print on. It's got a navy base, and I thought that'd be quite practical for me because I've got a lot of navy clothes. It's got this really pretty floral print on. One thing I did find was that after I'd bought the fabric and I had a proper look at the pattern, it did say not to go for one-way directional prints, and this is a one-way directional print. As you can see, all the flowers go the same way, because the way you make the bag is one pattern piece is designed to be wrapped all the way around at the outside. So I ended up cutting two pattern pieces, and I've got a bottom seam here, as you can see, which you wouldn't have if you made it exactly per the pattern, but it came out absolutely fine. So that's what I had to do just to make sure my flowers are the right way up on both sides of the bag. And it's got this patch pocket on the outside, and I tried to pattern match it, so I don't think it's that obvious it's there when you have a look at it on the camera, so pattern matching can't be too bad. It's got a popper on here, which opens up to a little pocket on the front. And I was a bit stalled in making this bag because I found it hard to find a popper that I could work. I originally bought some, I think they were hemline poppers, and I had to go on some scrap fabric, and I found it really hard to put them together with a hammer. I just couldn't do it. So I ended up ordering instead some prim poppers that I could use my prim and pliers on to attach them. I found that much easier. So I think in future I'll just get the prim ones that I can use with my pliers, because I find the pliers just work so much better with a hammer. I just don't trust myself. So anyway, it's got that little patch pocket on the front, which is quite handy. It's got these nice canvas straps. I got a lot of my bag making supplies from Minerva. The exterior fabric came from Lamazi Fabrics, but I got the straps from Minerva. Can't get my words out. And I also added in a zip. I thought I'd try the zip option just on the basis of trying a few different skills. So as you can see, my bag's got a zip here. That came from Minerva too. It's quite a nice chunky metal zip. I thought that would work well with the bag. I'll open up the bag so you can see inside. It's got the zip open. You can see here it's got a couple of pockets here inside. And this fabric is just kind of like a quilting weight cotton I got from Minerva too. I'll link all the supplies down below that I used for this bag, but it's nice and roomy and spacious inside. I found the instructions for the Noodlehead pattern really great. I was a bit nervous about doing the zip, but it went in really well. Their instructions were really good, and I'm really pleased with how it's finished. As you can see on the inside, I think it all looks quite neat and smart. Yeah, it came together really nicely. The one fiddly bit I found was at the end of the zip, which end is it? There's an option to add on a little tab on the end of the zip, and I did find that quite fiddly to attach, so it took a couple of goes, but I'm pleased I did sort of do it and I've got it on there. So I really enjoyed the whole process of how this bag came together, and I'm really happy with how my tote bag turned out, and I just really enjoyed bag making actually. I found it a bit different to dressmaking because I found there's a lot more measuring to do throughout the whole process. So I had my ruler by my side the whole way through, lots of straight lines to be drawn, lots of precision needed, and I found that quite satisfying and enjoyable to do. And I found the noodle head instructions really good. It really held my hand through the whole process, and the bag came together really nicely. So I'd really recommend the Pepin tote bag pattern. And I did, when I was looking on the Noodle Head website, see a couple of other patterns that look really nice too. So I'm definitely tempted to buy another of their patterns and try a different style of bag and start sort of upping my skills on the bag making front. And I think it'll be a great gift too actually. I think a tote bag is something that everyone can get some use out of, so I'll definitely bear that in mind for future birthdays and Christmases. I think it'd be a really nice birthday or Christmas gift to give to somebody. And yeah, you can have a lot of fun with the fabric, or just make a plain one too would be really nice. So anyway, I'm really happy with my tote bag, and I'm really glad I gave bag making a go. So the next project I've been working on over the last week or so is I've been carrying on with the toile of the anorak that I'm making. And I'm making an anorak, and you'll know this already if you've seen my previous midweek sewing chats. I'd like to make an anorak using this pattern here, which is the Kelly anorak pattern by Closet Core Patterns. And it's a pattern I've had my eye on for a very long time. I've actually had the pattern for a very long time, and the fabric for the main version, and I'm finally getting around to doing a toile to check the fit before I cut into my proper fabric. It's a really nice anorak pattern. It's quite a classic anorak style, and it's something I'd really like to have in my wardrobe for sort of in-betweeny weather. I haven't got anything like that, and I thought it'd be really nice to make my own that fit just right, which is why I'm making a toile to hopefully nail the fit before I do get into my proper fabric. So this is anorak. It's quite a straight fit anorak. You can either make it with a hood or a stand-up collar, and you can add a drawstring casing around the waist. It's got these cool gusseted flat pockets on it, which are really fun to sew actually, and I share more about how I got on sewing those in my video last week, my midweek sewing chat episode 13. I'll link it up above in case you fancy checking that out. And then it's got this placket with poppers, and then an internal zip in it too, and a little flap at the back. So it's got some nice skills, and I thought it'd be a fun one to try sewing and learn some new skills, as well as ending up with a garment that I could really do with. And in terms of sizing, it's not in Closet Core's full extended size range. This pattern only is in their 0 to 20 range, so the largest size is for a bust of 46 inches. So in terms of the sizing I've gone for in the Kelly anorak, I've just gone based on my measurements, and I've not made any other adjustments to the toile, and I thought I'd just sew it up, and then once it's finished I can see what other adjustments I need to make then. I should imagine I might need to lengthen the sleeves a bit because that's quite a standard adjustment for me, and then maybe a few other tweaks too, but I thought I'd just go based on my measurements to start with and see how I got on. So I'm going for a size 2 on the bust, and then I'm grading out to a size 6 on the waist and hips based on my measurements. So it'll be interesting to see how that fits when the toile is all sewn up. And for my final fabric for the Kelly anorak, I've already got the outer fabric, and I want to make it in a cotton twill in a navy colour. I haven't got the lining fabric because I'm still in the process of thinking what kind of thing I want to go for, and whether to go for something lighter weight or more cosy. I really don't know yet, but I thought if I just start sewing the toile, I'll see how I get on, and then it'll maybe sort of help me decide as I go through the process. So here is my toile. I've just used some medium weight calico fabric that I got from Minerva for the toile, just because it was just purely for fit really rather than anything else. So last week I'd sort of sewn the main body of the coat, and I'd sewn on these gusseted flap pockets, which were a lot of fun to sew. And this week I have put these sleeves on, and I took a while easing the sleeves in to make sure there weren't any little puckers. I wanted to just give it a go, even though it's a toile, it doesn't really matter. I just wanted to check I could ease them in fine before I moved them on to my final version. I found they actually went in really well. So I've got the sleeves in, and that gives starting to give me a bit of a better idea of fit actually. And I do think it might end up being a little bit snug around the shoulders and the sleeves. That's something I need to think about when I come to the main version, but I'm going to carry on going, and so I get on with the whole thing before I make any decisions about adjustments there yet. And then I also put on the drawstring casing too. And so I'm planning to make a lined version of the Kelly anorak, and I've purchased the lining expansion pack, which you can get from Closet Core's website. It's like a PDF file you download with some extra pattern pieces and some more instructions. But you can make an online version. This basic pattern is an online version, and the way you sew on the drawstring depends on which version you're going for. And because I'm going for the lined version, the way you sew on the drawstring is to attach the casing to the outside of the jacket. Where has it gone? Which is here. So you can see I've sewn the drawstring onto the outside, and then I've added a little buttonhole here. I've sewn a buttonhole on so that you can get the cord through. I think for the final version, I've got some eyelets that I'll use that will look a bit more proper for the holes for the cord. But I thought since this is just a trial version, there's no point in wasting eyelets on it. I just sew a buttonhole because it won't make any difference, obviously, to the fit. So I've got my cord in. And actually, one adjustment I did make was to bring the drawstring down a little bit, because when I had it held up to my body, I don't think it actually, does it say on there? No, there are notches, I think, as a suggested place where you put the casing on. But when I held it up, that looked like it would come up quite high. So I thought I'd give it a try of moving it down by an inch or two and see how that ended up. And then I might need to adjust it and tweak it further once I've got the full garment and I can see how it fits on. So the casing went on quite nicely. That's all sewn and got the cord on. And then I've also started on the hood. So I've got my hood. Oh, here's my toile, then my lining fabric I'm using for my toile. It's a poly cotton fabric. It was quite, again, from Minerva. It was quite cheap. I think it was £3.99 a metre or something. So I just went for that on the lining. So that's my hood lining with a little hood facing at the front and my outside hood. And the hood has flat felled seams on, which I think look really cool. There's a lot of flat felled seams on the Kelly anorak. So it's gradually coming together and I'm enjoying just sort of dipping in and out of it, because I think it's quite an involved process and there are quite a few stages. So it's just nice sort of doing a little bit and then having a break and then going back to it. But as I said, it maybe is feeling a little bit tight around the shoulders at the moment. So I'm glad that I'm doing this toile, because it will give me a good idea of what adjustments I need to make when it gets to the final version. But I'm quite enjoying just having a go and trying some new techniques, and I'm trying to take it slowly and not rush it and make sure I'm really comfortable with each technique, so when I get to my real version, hopefully it'll all be plain sailing, fingers crossed. So I'm not sure how much more sewing I'll do on my Kelly anorak toile over the next couple of weeks. Now the weather has started to improve quite a lot outside. It's definitely put me in the mood for some summer sewing. And recently I've made a few new fabric purchases of fabrics that I'd like to turn into summery garments. So I'd really like to focus on those. I'm still waiting for a couple of them to arrive at the moment, but I really want to get started sewing some summery items while the weather is nice. And I'm hoping to do a fabric haul video over the next week or two once those fabrics have arrived, sharing those fabrics and what I'd like to turn them into. So do keep your eyes peeled for that video. But it may mean the Kelly anorak toile takes a back seat while I do work on those, and I'll come back to it in a few weeks' time. We'll see. I'm not in a major rush to finish it. It's just a project I'd like to take my time over and make sure when I do get it all sewn up, I do end up with a really nice fitting garment. So it's not one I want to rush. So the final thing I wanted to share in this video is how I got on my sewing class that I started last Friday. And if you've watched my recent midweek sewing chat videos, you'll know that I booked to go on my first ever sewing class. I've always been self-taught on the dressmaking front, but we're very lucky nearby where I live to have a sewing studio called Satisfaction, and they run lots of courses. And a friend of mine had taken a couple of courses there and really enjoyed them. And she said she was thinking on booking onto this introduction to quilting course, and did I fancy going along with her? And I really liked the idea, so I signed up to go along with her. So it's a 2-day introduction to quilting course. The first day was last Friday and then it finishes this Friday. And I really wanted to try quilting for a while. I follow a few amazing quilters on Instagram and I really love seeing their creations. And I thought it was a skill I'd love to learn. I thought it'd be great to go along and try it at class where I know it's quite technical quilting, so I thought I'd learn all about all the technicalities, the equipment, and have someone really sort of guide me through how I get started learning how to quilt. So yeah, I was really excited to go along and I had such a lovely time. It's such a nice sewing studio, Satisfaction. It's sort of set a little craft village that's a little bit in the countryside, fairly near to where I live. And it's a really lovely atmosphere there. There were 7 of us on the course. I think there was supposed to be 8 and then only 7 of us turned up. And they have everything you need, sewing machines, all the sort of rotary cutters, rulers, all the stuff there. Tea and cakes too, which is always a bonus. And I had such a lovely day. So the lady who taught the class was a lady called Jo, and she has her own company and she does a lot of online quilting courses as well as teaching at places like Satisfaction. And her business is called The Crafty Nomad. I will link her Instagram account down below in case you fancy checking it out. She's got some amazing quilts on there. So it was a really great day. So on the first day, basically for this course, we're learning how to make a mini quilt. It's quite a basic quilt and it's sort of a lap quilt size. It's designed so you can actually add ties onto it and use it as a sewing machine cover as well. But I wanted to make my version to use for my daughter for her playing, because she really loves using blankets and things when she's playing with her dolls and teddies. So I thought a quilted blanket might be quite a fun addition to her sort of toys and accessories to use when she's playing with her toys. So we had to bring along some fat quarters and long quarters to be able to make our quilt. And I brought along some fabrics I thought my daughter would like. and we spent the day learning how to cut out accurately, because I think that's one of the most important things in quilting, that you cut everything very accurately so it all comes together really well. So we did that with rotary cutters and big quilting rulers, and I haven't got one of those big quilting rulers, but I think I will look into getting one of those if I'd like to do a bit more quilting at home. So we cut out all of the pieces for the quilt, and then we learned how to piece them together. So by the end of the day, we left with the sort of completed front and the completed back. And then I think this week we're going to be doing, what's it called? I've got the sheets here. Basting and quilting and binding, so sort of finishing it off. So she said that she thought we'd probably hopefully get to the point where we'd pretty much finished by the end of this Friday, or maybe had a little bit to do at home, a little bit of final hand sewing to attach the binding, which I'd quite enjoy at home anyway. So yeah, I'll show you how I've got on with my quilt. Here is my front piece all pieced together. And I'm really pleased how it turned out actually. You can see the fabrics, they're really cute. I've got these little heart prints in pinks and whites, and these pink and white unicorn prints too, and then a pink little border around the edge. And the back's quite straightforward and designed to use up some of the leftover fat quarter pieces, which I thought was quite sort of thrifty. So it's made up of 3 pieces left over from your fat quarters, and I just chose 2 hearts and the pink unicorns in the middle. So yeah, it's all ready, and you can see it on the back. I'm quite pleased, it's all fairly neat with all the little edges pressed and everything. So yeah, I think it should be a lot of fun finishing it off, and I'm looking forward to learning how you go through the process of doing all the kind of quilting lines on top. So yeah, lots of fun. I've got the binding fabric ready, but that's not cut out yet, but I'm really looking forward to going back this Friday. I found the whole day so relaxing, and I learnt loads too. It was really useful hearing all of Jo's tips through the day. So I feel like really much more informed about how you'd start quilting and how you do use those big quilting rulers to make sure you do cut really accurately. So I definitely could see myself getting the quilting bug. I really liked how methodical and precise it was. I did find it very satisfying when you see all the pieces coming together and lining up neatly. And hopefully next week I'll be able to share with you my final quilt and how I got on day 2 and found all the other skills we're going to learn then around, I keep having to look up the words, basting and quilting and binding and that sort of thing. So I think that's everything that I've got to share this week. So I hope you've enjoyed hearing a little bit about what I've been up to over the last week on the sewing front. And if you have enjoyed the video, I would love it if you would give it a thumbs up. So I'll be back on Saturday with another video. But in the meantime, I hope you have a lovely week, and I will see you again soon. Bye!